Every now and then, the TF2 community seems to get bored and start hating a class for no reason and then just start discussion on class balance. Previously, this would have with Pyro and Heavy, but now instead of going to weaker classes, the new TARDIS phenomenon has been somewhat a bit stronger. Because if you have been watching TF2 videos for the past year or so, you've probably seen some videos about how Sniper is overpowered and serves no purpose in the game. And while they may get high praise and clicks for people, I'm here to say that they're wrong, and I'll prove it by carefully picking apart each of the common arguments, as well as some niche arguments too. One of the first arguments that comes to mind when talking about the Sniper is that he's a long-range class in a game designed for close to mid-range combat, and therefore he doesn't belong. However, I have one counter-argument for that blanket statement. You want to know what else genre is built around the premise of having a diverse set of characters and is primarily made around close combat? That's right, fighting games. Zoners have been a staple of fighting games for years, even though they seem contradictory to the rest of the design. Imagine if Uncle Dane made this statement about a character like, say, Guile. He would be put on scrub courts before you could even say motion inputs are gatekeeping. But one person would say that this art doesn't work because the genres are comparable, even though TF2 probably would have more of an excuse to have a long-range character because it's a shooter game. Fine, although let's look at the design of the zoner itself. Zoners are typically built around being able to properly make sure the opponent doesn't get near them due to their projectiles being out every other one in the game. However, they require some prediction due to the opponent having the ability to jump. Their main weaknesses are that they have a terrible disadvantage state and are generally weak in close range. Does this apply to the Sniper? Yes. Sniping inherently requires a lot of prediction. When somebody finally gets a jump on the Sniper, the only thing that can save them is a make or break quickscope. If they miss, they die against an opponent that can aim. I also have to point out that class breaking a rule of the game isn't uncommon among specialists. For example, Pyro and Heavy primarily rely on automatic weapons rather than single fire ones, and the Engineer, Medic, and Spy have distinctly different gameplay loops from the rest of the classes. But let's move away from the long range capabilities and look at the feature of Sniper that has started this debate: quickscoping. A lot of people think that the Sniper having the ability to do 150 damage at will if he manages to hit a headshot at any range is unfair. And I can kind of see where they're coming from. Being able to do a ton of long range damage and still manage to whip out a 150 damage burst shot at close range if they're good enough seems kind of unfair. However, you have to realize that this amount of burst damage isn't too uncommon in TF2 as a last resort. The most obvious example of trick stabs, but power combos and the market guard also fall into this category. High damage combos aren't too unusual in TF2 and are usually reserved for high skill maneuvers, which the sniper rifle falls to, albeit to even a more extreme degree. This isn't the full story, however, as people might counter this claim by saying that everything I just listed had limited range, while a sniper rifle doesn't. This is also true. However, here's the thing. The sniper rifle is all he has. His other weapons are weak in comparison to other secondaries, and his sniper rifle in question has a lot more of a punishment for missing a shot. The Spy not only has his knife, but also a revolver with a generous reload and invisibility just leave. The Pyro doesn't have his flare gun and extinguisher, he also has a flamethrower with an air blast attached. Most of the time, at least. The Soldier doesn't just have the market gunner, but he also has a rocket launcher, which does basically everything. These classes may have less reliable one-shots, but they have more reliable options to defend themselves besides the one-shot. The Sniper, on the other hand, has an SMG that can feel a bit wonky to aim with sometimes, and the typical melee to boot. That's his trade-off for his more reliable one-shot. It's about how everything about him is weaker. But even then, a lot of players will still usually pull out another weapon rather than go for the quickscope, because to put it simply, it's unreliable. I'd also like to address this comment how the sniper's headshot taking skill is irrelevant because the Sandman Cleaver combo also took skill, yet was seen as overpowered and nerfed. This is already an unfair comparison because 1. This combo was attached to the fastest class in the game who already had very high damage with his scour gun, and 2. The real problem with the combo is how it took control away from the player. Here's a clip from Soundsmooth that says it better than I ever could, which, by the way, is another sniper hater.
I also think it'd be cool if the guillotine was buffed back into being a combo weapon. The issue that I had with it initially was that it was comboed with a stun mechanic. My issue wasn't the guillotine, it was the Sandman.
To further prove this, the reserve shooter on Pyro was heavily hated for the same reason. The fact that the Pyro could deal insanely high damage and take control away from the player, which is the reason it got nerfed. Inversely, the old Caber was a one-hit kill on Light Class that didn't take too much skill to take someone down when combined with the Sticky Jumper, but people still want it back because it was funny. And I agree, it should be buffed so it does 10 more damage so it can one-shot Light Classes but not medics. Again, the issue isn't the skill requirement or one-shot, but rather taking agency away from players. And once again, it seems like I've walked into another con art of how the sniper doesn't have any real counterplay or interaction fighting him outside of mirroring him. This art is parroted a lot, even though it is clearly false. The most obvious counter to sniper is a spy, although this has been questioned for two reasons. The first is that most good snipers only rely on quickscoping and aren't vulnerable to tunnel vision, and while it is true that the more experienced players have better game sense, the widely accepted saying that good snipers will always just quickscope is false. As you see, experienced snipers still charge up for body shots or try to one-shot a heavy. Without charge, you are completely prepared for heavier classes, which also ties to another con art that we will get to later. Snipers are also forced to be in semi-critical positions, as getting too close to an enemy will often spell death, because having great aim doesn't mean perfect aim. The only snipers that can get away with quickscoping are cheaters, but that doesn't count because you're breaking the rules, therefore it shouldn't matter in any discussion about game design. And before someone mentions the Razorback, while it does counter spies to an extent, it also leaves you a lot more vulnerable to literally everyone else, as it's not just a spy who can effectively deal with snipers. Am I defending the design of the Razorback? No, but isn't this magical win the game button that everyone says it is? Scouts have enough mobility to take unexpected paths to flank the sniper, or at least cross enough of his sight line's distance to get in range to duel him, which the sniper will have a hard time hitting such a fast and small target. To further make a sniper's life harder, you can equip items that allow even more mobility like the Winger and Soda Popper, or equip weapons that deal blade damage to make sure the sniper will need a miracle if he's gonna hit a headshot. With explosive class, not only can they tank a quickscope, but they have high mobility with blast jumps that can disable the sniper's ability to scope by launching them in the air with their explosives. The Spyro, likewise, can disable a sniper's scope with an air blast, but also uses a large number of items that deal afterburn to cause stacking to become nearly impossible. Ignore that clip where I just shot the Pyro after getting burnt, you saw nothing. Now, before one of you guys mentions the Darwin's Danger Shield, congratulations, you just made it easier for every other class in the game to kill you. Refer back to my Razorback point. I could go on with how the other classes can counter the sniper, but I already made a video on that. However, the Anti-Sniper Brigade has already thought of a counter art for all of this. TF2 is a team game, and the enemy team is going to be covering the sniper. The most notable person to argue this is ZestyGS, where he says that the flanks can be easily covered by engineers or even another sniper, basically arguing that the sniper's weaknesses are rendered useless by the fact that the sniper will always have backup. This is so popular of a counter art to any advice about countering a sniper, that I ended up getting a comment out on my video about countering sniper, completely ignoring the fact that all of my footage of successfully getting sniper picks were from actual gameplay with teams. Ignoring that most people in TF2 don't hyper-coordinate, I have a simple counter art. You also have a team too. Like how TF2 isn't always MG, TF2 is almost never a 12v1 game. Sentry covering a sniper, have a spy step to sentry, and blow up the engineer and sniper with an explosive class now they're just free to jump in. Second sniper covering the flank. First, that's basically 2 free picks as spy, but if you don't want to do that, just have a pyro light him up with a flare gun and you're free to charge in. Also, I just want to cover this meme that's often used to highlight the problem and just say, who looks at this scenario and thinks sniper is the main problem here? Clearly it isn't how engineer stacking is oppressive, that's just fair and balanced game design. So at the end of the day, yes, the sniper has counterplay, and no, the teams don't invalidate it. It's like saying the medic's weak damage doesn't count as a downside because his team can back him up, where how engineer's slow start downside doesn't count for the same reason. And all of this falls into the main problem I have with anti-sniper rhetoric. It's always assumed that a sniper is completely perfect, as a default standard rather than being an incredibly rare occasion. When people talk about the sniper being overpowered, there's a lot of things that are assumed. Those being... Alright, let's see, it's... The sniper has perfect aim, the sniper has perfect positioning, the sniper knows where every spy is, the sniper knows exactly when someone's going to flank him, the sniper is always playing on a map with super long sightlines, and he has a godlike team backing him up. At that point, you're not talking about anyone in the player base. You're talking about someone who is cheating, who also has a really good team. And if the enemy team was walling you off from getting to the sniper, then you were probably going to lose, 5,000 sniper or not. And when you look at a lot of the clips that these people show to prove the sniper is broken, it's always them firing away while literally no one is looking at them. You're not proving sniper is good, you're proving that the enemy team is bad and unaware of you. Look at this clip from Zessie Jesus' video where he claims that sniper is unfair because he hit a quickscope, ignoring the fact that just before the scout missed both of his shots and that a rap assassin to properly shut him down. He got to interact, he just was bad. This issue bleeds into the parts where there's still clips of them getting quickscoped, just showing one time they got quickscoped. Now we're supposed to assume it happens all the time, or that the sniper is just unbeatable. Well, here's a clip of where a sniper manages to absolutely nail me while I'm in the air, only for me to still manage to kill him later multiple times. Turns out most interactions don't turn out how they do in the clips.
Flashy kills only work against bad players. And hey, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. God forbid I say something people don't want to hear. But I gotta break it to you. You know those bloated, epic 50 kill streak frag montages? Those are just moderately experienced players farming fresh installs that likely don't even know how to call for medic. So you're better off using any other tactic that doesn't make you overshoot your targets.
There's a reason for these clips being shown besides propaganda, of course. Entertainment value is also a necessity in these videos, and having good gameplay is much more appealing. I should know, because I also prioritize having exciting gameplay in my videos, but I will also try to balance it out with relevant gameplay that properly paints a picture of how TF2 is. However, this becomes a problem when you see a sniper hit a good shot and then try to say this happens with every other interaction. But rather than be on the drum of the opposite and cherry picking and dishonestly representing how TF2 works, I would like to bring up something that the sniper that balances him out. He cannot effectively create any space and keep it. Sniper is inherently a defensive class, meaning his role is to more lock down an area that is already secured than rather than take an area like a more offensive class. With this, the sniper is pretty similar to engineer, as Fishstick on a Stick notes his own video discussing sniper's balance, which I would recommend watching. Both are area denial classes, one focusing on protecting more spherical location at a smaller range, while the other is focused on more single, long part map with high range. And like the engineer, the sniper struggles with repositioning for offensive capability. While the engineer needs time to set up his buildings again along with needing to halt him, if you need to go forth as sniper, you need to lose your charge and risk getting rust down with nothing you can do. This is like a lot of zoners that rely on charge inputs in fighting games, as you can't walk forward without losing your fireball. People may wonder why you need to do that, but sometimes zoners can end up losing projectile battles that lift characters at long range, most famously how Ryu will beat Gil at far ranges. This also applies to Sniper. Either you're too far away on the map and not with your team, you can't influence the battle, so you need to get where the fight is. The real risk comes with choke points, as you're risking potentially facing a slew of opponents in a range where you can't fight them effectively to potentially get the long sightline you want. Look at these sightlines on Battle Order, for example. Sure, you can just hold them, but you must worry about the enemies on the roof just jumping you. Enemies might not show up in this sightline anymore due to a combination of teleporters and general awareness. However, you can try to gain influence again by moving up, but you might just walk into some enemies waiting around the corner. On the offensive side, while you may have better security with this choke point, you must also consider the objective, which you cannot push due to your inability to fight at close range. Therefore, you must rely more on your team or do the same gamble the defending sniper needs to do. It's essentially the FPS equivalent of the Ryu-Gil matchup, and I think that's great. Granted, this dynamic isn't always present, but a lot of matchups in TF2 are influenced by a lot of things. It's a complex game, and that's why it continues to be fun. One of these factors that influence your victory is spacing, like a fighting game. You have to consider the effective range of your weapon and how easy the opponent can use theirs, along with many other factors to manipulate your position and the opponent to put yourself where you can easily secure a win, which still applies with Sniper. While some say that your own skill can't influence a fight with Sniper, I disagree, because Sniper isn't a battle of raw aim, but rather one of good positioning and map knowledge. The winner is often decided who decide to go to the right places at the right time, and manage to know what the opponent is doing so they can properly win. But now to discuss why I find the sniper matchup so interesting, I want to do some points that don't really need their own section. First, let's talk about sustainability. One of the main issues people have is inherent sustainability to just be able to keep taking pots at long range with not a lot of cost, making them a lot more sustainable. However, this level of sustainability isn't uncommon with other defensive classes. Engineer has a dispenser to give him back his health and analog the ability to freely repair his buildings, and the heavy has a sandwich to give him back his health. And yes, I know there's probably someone mentioning the risk of engineer and heavy taking a more offensive stance, but we're mainly talking about defensive positions. When a sniper does the same thing with taking a more offensive position, it's usually sacrificing a lot of charge and security, going back to the Gil comparison. Next, let's talk about ammo. People like to complain a lot about the sniper having too fast of a reload, which I can see where they're coming from. However, something else to consider is that this reload is still slow enough to make sure the sniper misses a shot against a competent opponent in close range. He's basically dead. And 2v1 scenarios? Forget it. At that point, the sniper is back at the spawn room. Even when talking about long ranges, the reload is fast enough to get out of the sight lines and warn your teammates. Granted, a nerf to Snipe's arrow will be the fairest nerf, but I still wouldn't immediately go for it. Speaking of nerfs, a lot of the suggested nerfs to Sniper would end up not fixing any problems and just cause the class to be less fun to play. A nerf to Sniper's damage or quick slowing would be detrimental because you would end up forcing Sniper players to only play defensively, which doesn't solve any of the problems that cause frustration. It only ends up making the class less fun to play. Reverse damage fall has been suggested, but again, this would probably cause close range encounters to be incredibly one-sided with little room to get out. To put how bad this nerf would be, imagine a spy couldn't trick stab. Again, this nerf just makes Sniper a more boring class to play and forces them to be offensive all the time. The only nerfs I can agree with is a slight nerf to his real or giving him the classic traces, but that's mainly a cool factor rather than balance. I'd also like to address people associating broken weapons on Sniper to the Sniper himself being broken, but that's flawed logic. If we were going by that, then the Engineer would be broken on principle of the Wrangler existing. One fun thing to note is a 5,000 Sniper argument and how a good enough Sniper could shut down an entire server. Here's the thing, Sniper isn't the only class that can do this. In fact, it's much more common for a Demoman, Soldier, or Heavy to demolish a server than a Sniper does. This is because while a Sniper can get some safe kills, the former three have a major impact and can push the objective while immediately getting jumped. I'm just sick of the agenda that only the Sniper can absolutely dominate a server, and it's getting out of hand. But why has the Sniper hate seemed to go out of control if it's based on half-truths at best and complete misinformation at worst? The first one is general content creator chicanery. Content creators in TF2 can be very influential in making people believe certain opinions. Like when Uncle Dane made a video on the panic attack being a good weapon and how the price and popularity raised after that happened. Combine with negative videos tending to get a lot more views than positive ones, and you've got yourself a recipe for a phenomenon. It's easy to spread an opinion when it's already supported by massive creators like Uncle Dane and Silentbiff, so why not do it? The second reason is the bot crisis and cheaters. Thanks to some idiots deciding to serve no purpose in society, TF2 now faces a bot crisis, which is when a bunch of literal machines running an aimbot all go onto Sniper and start deleting everyone. Even though other classes may be just as deadly as an aimbot, this is associated in Sniper with being oppressive and cause some up to project the lethality of bots onto experienced Sniper mains.
I think what it took is because, oh look, there's a bot, and then when you come across a 5,000 hour Sniper main, playing against a bot and a 5,000 hour Sniper main is effectively no different gameplay-wise. There's almost nothing you can do. You can't engage, you can't do anything. If he can see you, you're just dead.
The third point I'd like to cover is payload. Payload is the most popular mode in TF2 by a long shot. Get it? And it's also the one that usually favors a Sniper. On defense, the Sniper doesn't have as much of a reason to advance other than I'm getting bored, and you just watch the payload all day, unlike in other modes where you usually have an objective to take regardless of size. But attack and defend doesn't have the stigma with Sniper as being done, which leads us to the second rule of payload. Sightlines must be large. Due to the fact you need a clear path to the cart, you're also going to infernally make a Sniper sightline. You know, this is popular game mode favors one class mode at a time. You're going to get a lot of complaints. One final point I'd like to cover is that the Sniper is inherently a frustrating class, as a lot of the specialists in the game are. It's the same reason why people hate the Heavy or Pyro. Both excel in niche scenarios that make them feel oppressive sometimes. The only specialist that isn't complainable is the Spy, and that's because everyone knows he's low tier. But people still get salty at Spy because getting one shot doesn't feel fair, which is the same for Sniper. It's a combination of both forms of Sniper being the best specialist in the game, where he's often perceived as being overpowered, despite the reality it is just mid-tier. And what happens when you combine all four factors? A huge misconception arises that people will believe because it confirms their belief of Sniper being overpowered instead of their positioning being bad. Overall, I hope this video does a good enough job explaining why the anti-sniper rhetoric is almost completely founded out of emotions rather than any solid ground in game design that looks beyond the surface level. Because the sheer amount of misinformation that is spreading for the past few years about sniper has been disgusting, and someone needs to put it to rest already. Flanking a class that has often tunnel vision is easy most of the time, while hitting a precise shot while zoomed in is hard, and I'm tired of pretending that all snipers are gods. It's crazy to see how this rhetoric has turned people from perceiving snipers as free kills to perceiving them as untouchable. Thanks for watching, tell me what you think, and subscribe if you want to stick around. I'll see you in the next one.